A recent legislative audit in the state of Utah has uncovered errors in the signature verification process, and this involves several high-profile Republican candidates, which include Governor Spencer Cox, Representative John Curtis, and Attorney General candidate Derek Brown. The audit has revealed that a small percentage of signatures were incorrectly rejected and/or accepted for all three candidates. For example, for Governor Cox, 2.4% of his signatures were incorrectly validated, and 1.9% of his signatures were incorrectly invalidated. There is an estimated 665 signatures that were incorrectly validated, potentially ranging from 408 to 1,021 signatures that were invalid. And approximately 93 signatures were incorrectly thrown out, with a possible range of 19 to 266. These errors suggest that Governor Cox, may not have initially met the threshold of 28,000 valid signatures required to qualify for his state's primary election ballot. However, Republican leaders in the state's legislative chambers have come to the defense of the governor. For example, State President Stuart Adams and House Speaker Mike Schultz put out a joint statement claiming, and I'm summarizing here, that this is not a big deal because had Governor Cox known, he would have had plenty of time to get the remaining required signatures, so don't worry about it. And they are emphasizing that the audit results do not impact the upcoming general election, and they framed the audit as a positive step forwards towards maintaining a trustworthy electoral system. Now, the current Governor Cox and his lieutenant governor released a statement respecting the auditor's efforts and supporting recommendations for process improvement. However, this is not the end of the story. Since this news broke, there have been some additional developments and reactions related to the Utah signature audit. Now, the key reaction here is Phil Lyman's, who is Cox's primary opponent. He lost to Cox in the Republican primary and is now running a write-in campaign for governor and has continued to challenge the legitimacy of Cox's candidacy. On his campaign website, for example, Lyman is claiming that the audit shows that Cox fell short on his signatures. Here is part of the statement that he put out on his campaign, where he wrote, "To those defending Cox, we say, stop it. Stop distorting the audit's findings, stop gaslighting the public, and stop pushing false narratives. The auditor's findings are clear. Spencer Cox likely failed to gather 28,000 valid signatures. Claims that Cox, quote, did everything asked of him, end quote, or that he couldn't submit more signatures after allegedly reaching the threshold are undermining the people of Utah. When we hear, we'll fix this in 4 years so it doesn't happen again, or better luck next time, it's nothing but political deflection. Cox, the first incumbent governor in Utah history to fail to qualify for a primary at the convention, opted to gather signatures instead. The fact that he could have submitted more signatures if he knew he was short is irrelevant. He failed to meet the legal requirement. We are thus baffled by the statements from legislative and executive leaders that Cox fulfilled the requirements to qualify to be on the ballot. This audit shows precisely the opposite. At this point, it is evident Cox did not qualify and the ballots need to be reprinted. We call on the Utah GOP and Cox's supporters to prioritize transparency and accountability in our elections. If they fail to do so, the actions of the legislature, judiciary, state records committee, and all those pushing the false narrative that Cox qualified should be recognized for what they are, a farce. Meanwhile, most major news networks are instead pushing the narrative that Cox did indeed get confirmed by the audit, and that he is qualified to be on the GOP primary ballot. And in the meantime, there have been reports that several bills have already been opened for the 2025 Utah legislative session to address issues identified in the audit, which would include improved training, establish more uniform standards, and enhance controls over the signature verification process. So what do you think, my friends? Is it right that Cox remains on the ballot because if they had known, he would have had another 28 days to get the signatures? Or is Lyman right here that Cox did not qualify and is therefore an illegitimate candidate? Let us know in the comments below.